I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Tonight, the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and presentation of colors will be presented by Vero Beach High School Air Force Junior ROTC Detachment 043 under the direction of Wade E. Dews, Chief Master Sergeant Retired, Aerospace, United States Air Force. Please stand with me. You may be seated. Okay, at this time, I'd like to adopt the orders of the day. Are there any items board members wish to move from consent to action? No?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Madam Chair, I would like to move from the discussion, A, School Finance Forum, and B, the organizational chart. I'd like to move that from discussion to action agenda.
Oh. No, at this time, this is consent. Is that correct?
Move to consent. If we move it to consent, is that for a vote?
All right. So you're talking about two discussion items
Two discussion items to be moved
to action?
to action.
I don't,
Can we do that?
Mrs. Diagresta?
Yes, ma'am. The board may remember a couple of months ago, there was a time when a board member had placed something on discussion, and by a motion and vote, the board determined that it would move it to action as opposed to leaving it in the discussion section. So it would be appropriate for the board to determine if it wished to take action, move these items to the action agenda via motion and a vote.
Okay, so we're looking at School Finance Forum and organizational chart.
Yes.
So you want to move that to action
Yes.
so that we have to make a decision tonight
Possibly,
versus not?
depending on whatever you all vote, possibly, depending on what we discuss.
Right, right. Can you all speak up, please? Okay. So that would have to take a motion and a second.
So moved. So do I need to restate the motion? I make a motion to move discussion item A, School Finance Forum, and discussion item B, organizational chart, to action item.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Are there any items that board, I guess at this time we need to vote on this, correct? But we need to make sure that we don't have any items from consent to move over?
At the moment, you're not actually approving the orders of the day, you're just simply approving to move two items from discussion to action. And then I would suggest after that, that the board then make another motion to see if there's any consent items to be moved and then to approve your agenda.
Okay. Are there any items that board members would wish to move to action from consent? No?
No.
Okay. So at this time, we have a motion by Mrs. Rosario to move action item A, or discussion item A and B to action item. So I need a, we're going to vote. Do you want to speak to that?
No. No.
No, we can discuss it when we bring it up for discussion at that time, if that's,
Okay.
unless you want to discuss it now.
No, this is very rarely done, so that's why I'm just a little confused here. So, all in favor, I need, say yes?
Yes.
Okay, 4-0. All right,
Now, the adoption of the orders of the day.
okay. So at this time, I'd like to get a motion to adopt the orders of the day.
I'll move.
Terry, or I'm sorry, Mrs. Marenborg,
Yes.
and then I need a second.
Second.
And Mrs. Rosario? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. All opposed? 4-0. 4-0. Okay. All right, so now we have that done. At this time, we have presentations, so I'd like to recognize Dr. Rendell for a series of presentations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the most enjoyable part of the meeting. So those of you that are here for the presentation portion, you're the reason that this is the most enjoyable part of the meeting. We're going to have some students perform for us in just a few minutes. And then we're going to honor some of our employees who have achieved some certifications. We're going to honor a veteran in our community, and we're also going to present a check to the Veterans Council of Indian River County for some funds that were donated by our students and staff during a Casual for a Cause in the month of November. Do we also have a video to play as well? Is it of last Friday's event?
About the Star Patrol.
Outstanding. So I'm going to turn it over to our Public Information Officer, Kristen Maddox, and she's going to walk us through the presentations. Or
Good
if you wanna
evening,
join-
everyone. It's nice to have a full house tonight. Tonight we have the Treasure Coast Elementary Chorus. Have to give them a wave here. The Treasure Coast Elementary Chorus is under the direction of Mr. John Hall. The chorus consists of 4th and 5th grade students, and they will be performing Believer and Count on Me. And I have to move this out of the way because we have quite the setup here. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Hall and his chorus.
everyone. Welcome to our holiday Christmas performance, even though we're not really doing anything holiday. Anyways, we are grateful to be able to share this musical moment together with you. Sorry. Sit back. Sorry, guys. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this performance, which we have created for you. And you can clap along if you like. Thank you.
So our chorus is normally 4th and 5th grade, and we have a special treat. We have a 3rd grader with us today.
If you ever found yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. If you ever found yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. That's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, ooh, yeah. If you toss and turn and just can't fall asleep, I'll sing a song beside you. And if you haven't known how much you really mean to me, every day I will remind you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you. Like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, yeah. You'll always have my shoulder when you cry. I'll never let go, never say goodbye. You count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, ooh. You can count on me 'cause I can count on you.
Thank you, Treasure Coast Elementary Chorus. So this past week, we had a very exciting event take place. This is what I like to call Teacher of the Year and Employee of the Year season, because this is when all of the schools nominate a Teacher and Employee of the Year, and we go through a process that leads us to Friday, and eventually our gala in January. But Friday, we got to take the Star Patrol bus out, which is a regular old school bus that we decorate and make it super fancy for all the finalists. We get to go to their schools. Now these finalists, I'm a little ahead of myself, the finalists went through a very intensive interview process with an Employee of the Year committee and a Teacher of the Year committee. And I see some people here tonight. If you were on one of those committees, would you raise your hand to be recognized, please? Thank you so much over here in the back corner. We appreciate your time and dedication to our district and your support of our teachers and employees. So through the interview process, there was an interview and there were packets of information that the teachers and employees had to put together in order to be chosen as a finalist. And at the end of the week, we had 5 names for the Teacher of the Year finalists and 5 names for the Employee of the Year finalists. And what the Star Patrol did was it went to each one of these schools and surprised these finalists. We picked them up and we took them to a lunch at Mulligan's Beach House, sponsored by Community Credit Union. And this video kind of documents everything that took place that day, and we really hope you enjoy it. Good morning, everyone. We are headed out on the Star Patrol bus to pick up our 5 Teacher and 5 Employee of the Year finalists. We are so excited. No one in the district knows where we're going yet. Can you guess? Are we coming to your school? We'll see in a few minutes. So that was just a special day for our top 10. However, we do have several events planned up until the gala on January 14th at the Vero Beach High School Performing Arts Center. That will be for our teachers and employees of the year at each one of our schools. So we're just very excited to be able to celebrate them in that way over the next couple of months. Next up on the agenda, we have Casual for a Cause. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. Our Casual for a Cause donation that we raised money for in November was the Veterans Council of Indian River County. Now, what we do for Casual for a Cause, if you're not familiar with it, is it's set on a predetermined day, and in exchange for a donation, teachers, students, and staff are allowed to dress casually, and we take this money and we give it to an organization that we have dedicated that donation to for the month. So Bruce Cady is here today. He's the Director of Operations for the Veterans Council of Indian River County, and we would like to present him with the donation of $4,000 from the students, teachers, and staff members here in Indian River County.
Well, thank you all very much to the school district here. This $4,000 check added with the previous years has shown a contribution of over $10,000 that our children have contributed towards the veterans in our county. There are over 25,000 veterans and veteran family members within Indian River County. We have older veterans as well as younger veterans. So the funds that have been donated are enabling us to serve those veterans, either the older veterans as they need assistance or the younger veterans as they return to our community, bring their children into our schools. So thank you all very much on behalf of the Veterans Council of Indian River County.
This year, we've started a new tradition at our board meetings where we honor a veteran every month. Today, we'd like to honor Peter Sales, United States Marine Corps, combat veteran of the Vietnam War, facilitator of the Toys for Tots program for North County, and president of the Victory Center Military Store in the Indian River County Mall. The Victory Center is a nonprofit store whose profits are used to pay for a gathering place for veterans at the mall. Mr. Sales, would you please come up to the podium? Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much. The store really enjoys your support. We've given away over $54,000 to veterans in the county, and we have given just Toys for Tots. I don't have the statistics because I wasn't prepared, but we do a lot for Toys for Tots in the county. And thank you very much. It's my honor to serve.
Okay, and that's it for presentations tonight. That's not it for presentations tonight. Just kidding. I'm sorry, that was the end of my script. I'd like to call Julie Gaston-Smith up to the podium. Julie, I'm so sorry. We have some very important teachers here tonight who have completed the alternative certification program. I myself went through that program. It is hard work, very hard work. It is hard to teach and it's hard to keep up with the coursework and the program at the same time, and I commend all of you. So I am very sorry for trying to wrap up the presentations before we got to you. Julie, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Julie Kasten-Schmidt with our Professional Development Department, and Terry Beckham and Anitra Cummings, also with our department. And on behalf of the PD team, we want to thank the school board and Dr. Rendell for giving us the opportunity to honor and recognize these individuals that have gone through a very challenging program. This journey is not easy. It's a 3-year journey to a certification, and at least a year of that is spent doing coursework with us. And so tonight we're going to recognize our most recent completers. Every year we have about 25 in each cohort. So with December being a little crazy, we do have some that were unfortunately could not make it, but we're going to recognize them as well. But we're going to start with our individuals that were able to be here. So, all right, you ready? So first of all, we have Kiana Blue. Is Brian here? And Brian Bodorf, did I say it right? Brian Bodorf? No? All right. Is he here? No. All right, Misty Harp. Misty Harp. Lacey Henley. Lillian Marsiglia. Winfred Smith. And then those that couldn't be with us tonight were Brian Augustine, Nicole Bowser, Elizabeth Foytek, Justin Griffin, Amanda Lane, Allie McGillivray, Matthew Rollo, Jason Robinson, Alyssa Rosier, and Amelia Struzula.
I'm going to check before I say that's all. That's the end of presentations for tonight.
That's it.
Okay. That concludes our presentations. At this time, I would like to invite the public to, this is our citizen input. So first, we have Mary Lou Chumbry Elo. Elo. Almost.
Good evening. My name is Mary Lou Chambriello. I'm the president of Vero Lake Property Owners Association, and I'm here this evening for 3 reasons, but I'm going to start off with the first one is I'm going to ask you for your help. We at VLEPO are doing a scholarship fund this year. We have started our parameters, and we probably need some guidance from you. I've been involved in scholarships in the past, but things have changed. The world has changed, so we would like to ask you for some help. We are going to only give the scholarship to someone that's a member of the VLEPO. They have to live in VLE, and we don't care if they're going to college or if they're going to a vocational school. And we'd like to give that out probably when you have your award ceremony. So that would be number one. So if you could help us with that. It was Trevor Bishop's idea. It's a beautiful idea. And we in VLEPO or Vero Lake Estates are really and truly committed to being good members to the community. We are the largest subdivision in Indian River County. So that would be number one. Number two, I was here, and most of you won't remember me, but some of you will. I was here July 24th to complain about your ability to be a good neighbor. I'm here today to talk about, have you ever walked into a room, thinking, I'm going to go in and I'm going to have a fight, and I'm ready, I'm loaded for bear, and you walk into a room and you think you're going in for a fight, and what you find out is totally the opposite of what you thought. That you're not going in for a fight, you're actually working with people that want to help you, that didn't know about the problem, and then when you told them about it, they took it seriously, they heard you, and they solved it. Now, for those of you that are on the board, you have no idea what it meant to the people that live on the south side of the high school. Their quality of life has been so much better since we have solved this problem. And I want to thank you personally for taking care of that instantaneously. I don't know who did it. I just want to let you know that it was done. And all of you here in the audience need to know that it was an ongoing problem for a very long period of time. And apparently nobody came up here and spoke about it. I spoke once, just once, and it was handled. So congratulations to you. Thank you so much. I really can't thank you enough. So that being said, I am a woman of a lot of words, but I'm going to try to keep it down. I also want to let you know that I would love to help out if I can in the school. I'm really, really good if you put me on a project. I don't like a long-term job. I don't know how I got elected to VLEPO. I think they just happened, but I'm really good on a short-term project. I don't want to get into it, but I have a very, very huge debt to pay to this community, and please call on me. I'm actually pretty good. I volunteered for 17 years with Kids at Risk. I did a lot of scholarships in Broward and Palm Beach County, and it would be my pleasure to help you. And last but not least, I want to wish all of you, everyone here, on behalf of Vero Lake Estates, a very wonderful and beautiful holiday, whatever your God, whoever your God, and have a marvelous and fabulous New Year. Again, thank you for what you did for our community. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And I'm sorry for being a little cranky. I can be cranky.
No,
I
you're
don't
fine.
want to be, but I can be. Thank you, and
Thank
again,
you
a very
so
happy
much.
New Year.
Someone to be in contact with you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Okay, next we have Dr. Jacqueline Moyer. There you are. And then up after Dr. Jacqueline Moyer, we have Jack Stiefel.
Good evening, board members. My name is Dr. Jacqueline Warrior. I came here to discuss an item that I then later learned was pulled from the agenda tonight. I think it was action item D. I don't know what that means, but what I come here to ask you is, since it was made so public, the whole issue of Mr. Morrison and the accusations of wrongdoing, that I would like to see it not just be pulled off of the agenda, that some way the public, that we know, what is the process, what's going on with this whole issue. That's my comment.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay.
Good evening, school board members. I'm Jack Stiefel, and I got to admit this is the first time that I've ever spoken to the school board, addressed issues in front of the board. Probably not going to be my last, because the issue that I have to speak to tonight, I have a significant amount of passion with regard to, and that issue has to do with the Equity Committee. But first, let me say that I'm a member of our community's Coalition for Racial Justice, and the reason that I want to speak to the issue of the Equity Committee is the fact that, as I understand it, the goal of the committee is to lead our school district into full compliance with the court-ordered desegregation issue. I am here to ask the board to fully support the work of this critically important committee. And I want you to know that there are many, many people out there in our community who have high expectations in that regard and watchful eyes. So thank you for all you can do to support that committee.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Mrs. Claudia Wall. And I believe that is our last speaker for tonight.
Good evening, board. I'm Claudia Wall, a mother of 2 students. A $7 million insurance deficit, a $2.1 million state audit, Carter Morrison's $2.3 million transfer out of the general fund, $8 million tax anticipation note. The school board in the past has not been watching over finances sufficiently. How will the board attempt to restore the public's confidence in a school district shaken badly by its ongoing mismanagement of public money and lack of financial transparency? A key detriment to our school district's financial transparency is its antiquated accounting system with its flawed processes and procedures. Also, unlike the other school districts, its finance department policies and procedures manual is not stored electronically for easy access. I have been charged $40 an hour to get the most mundane financial questions answered. I was told by district staff that the problem is a very antiquated computer system that our school district uses on the business side of operations for its $300 million annual budget. District staff told the public over 6 years ago it should pay a 0.6 ad valorem tax, partly so it could replace its 1970s accounting software. December 2016, the board finally approved the purchase of an accounting software system. Mrs. Zork said she was very pleased to approve the purchase, explaining the old system couldn't even accommodate the insertion of a comma in a financial document. Since then, dead silence. The board didn't ask for updates, and Dr. Rendell gave none. The implementation is still limping along. Our prior school board didn't even notice, which is why I'm informing the new board. In a recent similar situation, the Manatee County School Board put its superintendent on administrative leave while under investigation for going over budget and overtime and implementing its new financial system. The project manager and district's chief information officer were suspended as well. While continuing to rely on its antiquated business operating software, our school district has failed to implement a system of internal controls that includes adequate checks and balances to ensure no one person has control over all parts of a financial transaction. There's only one person. This is bad business practice, especially for a governmental agency such as the school district, which is accountable to the public. Good financial practice is to have multiple checks and balances for effective internal control of funds and good communication and cooperation among personnel between pertinent departments. At this point, the public should receive an explanation why our school district has taken more than 6 years to change its antiquated accounting system. I sent an email to the new board just before they were sworn in. I'm still waiting for an explanation. We are left with doubts that we have a school district that promotes effectiveness and efficiency of operations, accuracy of operating data and information, reliability of program reporting, and protection and oversight of funds against unauthorized transactions, fraud, and misuse. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wall.
Thank you.
Okay, so okay, so we are moving on. We have a workshop coming up that we're going to explain that, but we're not supposed to talk during this time, but we will get with you on that, okay? No, I'm Mrs. Wall, okay. At this time, I would like to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move it.
Do we have any changes that we needed to make? Do we do that before?
Yes, I think we already approved the consent, didn't we?
You already approved the orders of the day.
The orders of the day, okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, okay,
I'll second.
all right. Is there any discussion?
No, ma'am.
No? All in favor, yes?
Aye. Yes.
Yes. Okay, 4-0. All right. So at this time, I am going to move to action item A. Okay?
Oh, I'm sorry. I need to go back. I apologize because I didn't realize this was under the consent, but the minutes, do we not bring those up separately?
There was
From
some
our prior
clerical
meeting.
errors.
Mrs. Berenberg, it was part of the consent agenda, so
Okay.
if
So
you'd
I-
like to
They
move,
needed to be amended. I believe they were. We just need to make sure. Does that need to be voted on separately?
To the minutes.
the minutes in the packet need to be amended, or have you already?
I brought them to the attention of our secretary. She amended them.
There's two items.
It would be appropriate to do a motion to reconsider the vote on the consent
Okay.
agenda.
Could I do a motion to reconsider the vote on the agenda, for the consent agenda, please?
I second.
Okay. Okay.
Should we, we need to vote on that?
Go ahead and vote on it.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, so I'd like to bring a motion to change the organizational, the minutes from last meeting
Okay.
to the amended minutes, to approve the amended minutes.
And what is the amendment that you're seeking?
There were just two minor spelling errors. But one was on a school board member's name, not mine.
Okay.
That's an ongoing joke, I know.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Need a
Is that
minute.
it?
That's
Just
it.
one?
Just those two, yeah, there are
Okay.
two minor
Okay.
spelling errors. I brought them to her attention.
Okay. So I'm assuming you have the motion to change it?
To approve the consent agenda as amended.
Right.
Okay. And I need a second.
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Sorry, there's always the first time for everything after being here 2 years. Okay. So at this time, we are moving on to action item A. This is public hearing for adoption of new revised and repealed district school board policies. Dr. Riddell, will you please explain the item you're recommending for approval?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On October 23rd, 2018, the board set a public hearing tonight to adopt new revised and repealed district school board policies. The purpose of the revisions, new policies, and repealed policies is to be consistent with present practice and legislation. The policy change process was followed in accordance with Florida statutes under Florida Administrative Procedures Act, Chapter 120, and by School Board Policy 0131. Madam Chair, it would be now appropriate time for the public hearing.
Okay. This item deals with adoption of new revised and repealed district school board policies. Dr. Rendell, have you documented that this public hearing was properly advertised in accordance with state statutes?
Yes, Madam Chair, it was.
Okay. We now recess this meeting to conduct the public hearing as advertised. The public hearing is now in recess. Dr. Rendell, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
We did not receive any written responses.
Okay. All right. The public is invited to address this issue at this time. Is there any individual representing an organization or his own personal or public interest who wishes to speak? No. The chair concludes that this announced public hearing on the adoptions of new revised and repealed district school board policies has been conducted pursuant to notice, and that ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided to all. The board meeting is reconvened at this time, and I call for a motion to approve the recommended policy changes.
I'll call for the motion.
A second? Oh, that's okay.
Okay, I'll put Mrs. Rosario. Okay. Is there any discussion?
No.
No discussion?
I just wanted to make sure, because I didn't see it here in these, was the definition for abandonment as, what was previous discussed, was that actually included?
Abandonment?
Because that's the only thing that I did not see.
Who,
I may have missed it, but.
whose section was that? Who was the,
I'll tell you right now.
that was probably under Dr. Martinez?
It would be student services, so,
Okay,
and Dr. Torres Martinez is at a conference,
okay.
so we'll see if Mrs. Dampier
I believe it
can-
was 1213. Yeah,
What section?
1000.
Does she know?
She's still looking it up.
Okay.
Page 19 of 58 on your Action A.
Page 19. Oh, and what's in the
Chairman Zork.
Okay. Mrs. DeAgresta.
Mrs. Rosario, if you look in your agenda item, it's page 20 of 158 is the second page of policy 1213. If you look at the very end of that page, you'll see that the definition, for the purposes of this policy, the following definition shall apply, and they've inserted the definition of abandon.
Okay, good. What I was actually looking at was in here, and these were the, what was crossed out in red and green,
Yes.
and added in green, so I didn't see it here, but thank you.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You okay? You good?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other discussion? No? Okay. All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Aye. Yes.
4 yeses. Do you like aye better?
Say yes.
Okay, 4-0. All right, so we're moving on to action item B, approval to issue a purchase order that exceeds $50,000. Dr. Rendell, you are recognized to explain the request.
Thank you, Madam Chair. School Board Policy 6320 limits my spending authority to $50,000. So any purchase that is for an item or service over $50,000 needs to come for the board for approval. The board may recall, and members of the audience may recall, that typically every summer we present a list of recurring vendors and services and purchases that we do every year that typically are more than $50,000. And we ask the board to approve that list of vendors at that time, so that every time we do a purchase with one of those vendors that's over $50,000, we don't have to keep coming back to the board for approval. The item that is on action item B, testing material for the International Baccalaureate program at Sebastian River High School, was an item that previously was on that list but was removed. So we're asking for approval for $60,279 to purchase IB testing materials for the students at Sebastian River High School in the spring, so they can take and complete and successfully complete their IB exams. The board will see similar items like this at other business meetings in the future for items that were on that recurring vendors list that were removed. So Right now, we're asking for approval to purchase the IB testing materials, $60,000, $279.
Okay, I need a motion.
I make a motion.
Okay. Mrs. Rosario and Dr. Schiff. Did you get that? Dr. Schiff. Okay, at this time, I'm going to call for discussion.
I know I questioned this item just because I wanted to make sure, be very clear that this is just for this year's testing for IB students.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? No. I do have a question, and I should have asked this yesterday. This 60,000, is that incorporated already in their budget? I believe their
Yes, ma'am.
budget's 153, so it would be what's left after we take that away?
I'm not sure how much is going to be left after we take that away, but, these will be purchased. The funds are in the IB account at Sebastian River High School.
Okay. Okay. All right. No further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Yes.
Oh, you're opposed?
No, I'm saying
Just
yes
kidding.
for the aye.
Okay. 4-0. Okay. We're moving on to action item C, approval of budget amendments. Dr. Rundell, you're recognized for this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These budget amendments, and we present these budget amendments to the board periodically, at least quarterly, if not sooner if we need to. They typically appear in the consent agenda because these are just amendments to either the incoming expenditures to an account or incoming revenue or expenditures in certain accounts. And so we put them on the action agenda item to bring attention to them for you for your first time. If you have any questions about these different amendments, Julianne Pelletier, our Director of Finance, is here and can speak to those if you wish for her to come up to the microphone, if you have any questions about these.
All right.
Can I say that in a slightly different way? Ms. Pelletier, is there anything you think we need to know about this that we might not think to ask you?
Hi. No, I don't think, all of the movement that's in here is increase in revenue offset by expenses. There was a decrease to the fund balance on the general fund of $61,000 in the first quarter. And the other amendments that are going through are just transfers of in and out revenue and appropriations to offset. The descriptions are all in the back. If any of those need any clarification, I can look at them for you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I need a motion, and then we can discuss.
So moved.
Okay. Dr. Schiff. And then second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mrs. Barenborg.
I have a question for Ms. Pelletier.
Okay, we're going to go into discussion. So
So Julianne, they're going to need.
can you come back up, please? No, we just need to get into the discussion portion. So go ahead.
I had a question about transportation services. How do we get an increase for this quarter for transportation? Where does that come from? It's on the first page. The increase is $148,117.
You're looking at the general fund?
Yeah, which fund?
I am looking at amendment number 1. Yes. Appropriations. It's page 1 of 2. It's the second one from the bottom, and it says transportation services. It's actually this one right here.
Am I,
don't have that
do you
on
want
mine.
to?
Do you want to see this one?
Want a copy?
Yeah. Are those funds that come in from the state?
You have to go to the microphone.
Special revenue, this isn't the general fund.
It's grant
Oh, okay.
funded.
The
I'm
what?
not sure that I actually even have that in my file of papers.
Okay, I'm sorry?
So those are grant funds?
Oh, grant, okay. So we received grant money for transportation?
It could be for IDEA to transport students with disabilities.
Oh, okay. Okay, no, that's okay.
No.
I was just wanting, some clarification on that, so thank you.
I think it's like a net of some.
I need you to speak into the microphone. Thank you. Sorry.
So I think that the 148 is a net of some of the description on the back.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? I do want to say that typically I've seen these amendments always show up into the consent, and there's not an opportunity to discuss, so I really do like it being on the action, because sometimes in the consent, it gets approved and it feels like it's just overlooked. So I really like having these amendments in the action. So whoever did that, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, no further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. 4-0. Okay. Okay, let's see. On my agenda, I have action item D was marked out. We have adopted our orders of the day, but can we give an explanation on this?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Action item D was a recommendation of transfer from one employee of an employee from one position to another. And I withdrew that recommendation of transfer earlier today. I really believe that in the best interest of the organization moving forward, that person should remain in their current position. And so I withdrew that recommendation for transfer, and that person will be returning to their current position Thursday.
Thank you. Is there any comment or no? Okay.
No, yes, sorry.
Okay.
I apologize. Dr. Rendell and I talked about it earlier, and I believe Dr. Rendell made a good decision on behalf of our school district by putting our needs before anything else. At this point, we have been without a chief financial officer, and it's about time that we get back on track to where we need to be. I also believe that some changes, in our procedures might make things a bit more transparent the way they should be. So I am looking forward to getting back on track and moving in the right direction.
Do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I want to echo Mrs. Rosario. I want to actually thank everybody who brought information about this to our attention and was so active and engaged in it. And I want to thank the superintendent for reconsidering what has been a difficult issue and making a decision that I think is in the best interest of the district moving forward.
I'd just like to say ditto, and thank you for listening.
Okay, well, I definitely, second board meeting, challenging set of circumstances that you came into. There's history, and then there are things that we're gonna have to continue to work on, and, but I do think currently this is the best move that we could have taken today, so I do appreciate taking this off tonight and putting Mr. Morrison back into his position, so I appreciate that.
Never mind. Go ahead.
So anyways, So there's no vote on that, but out of the spirit of transparency, we did want to address this. So that item was pulled off earlier. So I'm going to move on to action item E, approval of agreements pertaining to the sale of City of Vero Beach Electric Utility to FPL regarding fiber optics. Dr. Rendell, would you please explain this item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's actually a very complicated item, so I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible. Many of you in the community are aware of the sale of the City of Vero Beach Electric to FPL. A lot of the electrical power travels over wires on telephone poles. We actually have a lot of data wire on those same telephone poles. And those telephone poles used to be the property of the City of Vero Beach, and now they're going to be the property of FP&L. And so the action item is an interagency agreement between the school district, the City of Vero Beach, the County Commission, the Board of County Commissioners, and FP&L to allow our data wires to remain on those poles, which will now be owned and maintained by FPL. It's pretty much the simplest way I can explain it. And the County Commission approved the same agreement earlier today. We are recommending that we approve this agreement tonight. If we don't approve the agreement tonight, it could possibly hold up the sale of the electric to FP&L, and I don't think we want to be the ones holding up the sale.
I would like to have the privilege of making the motion.
I'll move.
Mrs. Berenborg, and then Dr. Sheff.
Chairman Zork.
Yeah, excuse me.
Excuse me, it's actually 4 separate agreements that touch on 4 separate issues with the transfer of the electric utility from the city to FPL. I know Dr. Rendell was simplifying for everyone's sake, which I think is perfectly appropriate, but it is 4 separate agreements that are being approved tonight, not just one, and it touches on separate issues that will go into this particular transfer of the electric utility.
Okay, thank you.
So do I need to say move 4 times, or are we good? Okay.
It's one agenda item, 4 separate documents.
So, any discussion? No discussion. This is very, well, I'm going to say something because I know this is going to save the school district. I think we've looked at it one time. It was between $400,000 and $500,000 a year by going to Florida Power and Light and getting off the Vero Electric. So that is $400,000 to $500,000 a year that we can put back into the classroom. So I'm very excited about that. And this contract is very in-depth, and I appreciate everyone that spent the time. They've invested a lot of time putting this contract together. It looks like it's about 40 pages, so I appreciate that. With no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
4-0. 4-0. Oh, yeah, thank you. All right, so I am moving on to action item F, approval to award invitation to bid for a single point of entry with Kern Construction and Property Management. Dr. Rendell, would you care to explain that item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, action item F and action item G go together, as do action items H and I. Action item F is the approval to award the bid for a single point of entry project at Sebastian Elementary to Kearns Construction. And then action item G is the award of that contract to Kearns Construction for that single point of entry project at Sebastian Elementary. So in action item F, we're seeking your approval to award the bid, and action item G to award the contract. We have to vote on them each separately.
Okay. So at this time, I need a motion to approve action item F.
So moved.
Dr. Schiff. And then I need a second.
I'll second.
Mrs. Berenborg. Okay. Any discussion on this item?
Yeah, I just want to remind, we had a conversation about how we talk about these items and just to reflect back on that.
Sensitivity?
Yeah, about the sensitivity of these items.
Okay.
Just wanna surface that.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? No. why I'm excited about the safety and security for our students is of the utmost priority. So I appreciate this being moved forward quickly. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0. Okay. Action item G, approval of owner contractor construction agreement for school single point of entry. Dr. Rendell, do you care to explain the request?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Action item G is the actual award of the contract for that same elementary school that we just approved the bid for.
Okay. I need a,
Oh, I'll move a motion.
okay,
I'll second.
Mrs. Berenborg, and then second by Mrs. Rosario. Any discussion? No. No. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So 4-0. Moving on to F, approval to award invitation to bid for a single point of entry to Kearns Construction and Property Management. Dr. Rendell, do you care to explain the item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Action item H and action item I go together. In action item H, we're seeking approval to award the bid to the company for the single point of entry project at that elementary school. And then again, in action item I, to award the contract to that company, Kearns, for the single point of entry project at that elementary school.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to approve.
I make a motion.
Mrs. Rosario with a motion, Dr. Schiff with a second. Any discussion to this item?
Not to this item, I'm sorry, but to F, I see a typo. Is this the appropriate time to mention that? I didn't catch it earlier. There is it appears to be a typo in the number, $199,000. There are 2 zeros instead of 3.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you. Any discussion for action item H?
No, ma'am. Thank
Okay.
you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
4-0. Okay, we're moving on to action item I, approval of owner contractor construction agreement for single point of entry. Dr. Rendell, I believe you already explained this item, but.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is to award the contract to that company for the single point of entry project at that elementary school.
Okay.
I'll move to motion.
Okay.
Second.
Did you get that? Okay. Any discussion? No. We had an extensive 9 to 12 security and safety discussion this morning, so if we're moving past this quickly, it's because we've already spent 3 hours discussing safety and security. So all in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Any opposed? No. 4-0. All right, so action item J, approval or release of final payment to Summit Construction of Vero Beach for the Treasure Coast Technical College. Dr. Rendell, can you please explain this item for approval?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is actually a very exciting action item to bring forward. I want to thank the previous board for their vision and executing that vision and creating Treasure Coast Technical College. I don't know if everybody in the audience and the viewing audience knows, but we have our own vocational technical college here in Indian River County. It's located just north of Gifford Middle School. And as part of the opening of that technical college, we built a construction trades or industrial trades building. And that project was budgeted for $1,600,100. And it came in under budget at $1,530,044.01. So we have a leftover amount of $70,055.99 that will go back into the capital project fund. So we're asking your approval for final payment to Summit Construction of the last amount of money for that project, to close that project out, which has been a great thing for our community.
Thank you. I need a motion for approval.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Mrs. Barrenborg, motion with the motion, and then Mrs. Rosario with the second. Any discussion on this item?
Just a thank you. It's nice to see something come under budget.
I have you been able to, with you just coming on, but have you all been able to get out to the college and check it out?
I have
No?
not yet.
Okay.
It's impressive. I took a tour. Miss Shields took me around. It was very
So,
impressive.
How can we set up a tour?
Oh, we can make sure that we invite all of the board members out there and have
Absolutely.
another demonstration. I do want to mention that Summit Construction not only came in under budget, but they finished the project early, and it was a very aggressive timeline. We basically designed and built the building in a year, and it's a great, fantastic facility. It actually won an award from the Chamber of Commerce for the industrial, for the architecture and design of the building.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. 4-0. Okay, moving on to K, approval of agreement form for construction contracted services with Stuart Fence Company for fencing and gates. Dr. Rendell, do you care to please explain this item for approval?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In action item K, we're seeking approval for a project not to exceed $95,400 for fencing at one of our schools to improve security.
Thank you. Board members, I need a motion.
I make,
Okay. Dr. Schiff with a motion, Mrs. Rosario with a second. Discussion? No? Okay. Quiet tonight, aren't we? I think we're waiting for the end of the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
4-0.
Like you said, we spent a lot of time today already on safety and security, so.
Yes, we have. We definitely have. We're going into our 10th hour of discussions today, so we're a little quiet, which is unusual. Okay, moving on to L. Action item L, approval of Economic Opportunities Council of Indian River County Headstart Program Agreement for Dodgertown Elementary and Indian River Academy Portable Classroom Buildings. Dr. Rendell, will you please explain the item that you've presented for approval?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a renewal of an agreement that we have with the Economic Opportunities Council of Indian River County for Head Start programs. These are pre-kindergarten programs that we actually have on site at two of our schools, at Indian River Academy and Dodgertown Elementary. So the Economic Opportunities Council operates these preschool programs on our campuses. It's a great partnership we have with them. It helps prepare our students so that they're kindergarten ready when they enter our schools as 5-year-olds. And so we ask for your approval to renew these agreements.
Okay. Need a motion?
A motion to approve.
Second.
Okay.
No, I have a question.
Okay. Mrs. Barrenborg and then Dr. Schiff. And then open for
No, mine was a second. I
Oh,
don't
I'm
have a
sorry.
discussion.
Yeah. That's right. Discussion.
I have a note, a handwritten note that the certificate of insurance is supposed to be attached to the amendment, but I don't have the insurance form.
Yeah, we can have Ms. Mercado come to the podium, but this is an item that we've been
Issued as an amendment.
pursuing, and I believe this was issued as an amendment.
Good evening, everyone. We did receive the COI from the Economic Opportunities Council, and they meet the contract requirements, and I have a copy here. I'm sorry, I didn't make it in time for your packets.
Do we have extra? Can we take a look at it? Can you pass
Yep,
it?
I'm sorry, Nancy.
Well, if she.
Are they
We have a copy right
complete? I
here,
mean,
Madam Chair.
is there a reason why we didn't get them in our packets prior, or we don't know?
Yeah, I believe it was in the amendment Friday.
I don't have it in mine.
It was in. Oh, I got it somewhere. I'm so
was online. I saw it.
Oh, here, wait. It's right here. Mrs. Esplin, I believe this was put in our box on Friday. Did you not?
Yeah, I got everything.
But you just didn't get that, okay. All right, well,
all right, it might be
we
somewhere.
can take a pause and you can take a look at it.
No, are these certificate of insurance for 1 year? Because I see it's only 1 year, and that's, our agreement with them is only on a 1-year basis?
Not familiar enough with the contract to answer your question in regards to the terms of the contract. I can speak to the certificate of insurance. Generally, it's issued, just for the year, and then we monitor it in accordance with the contract.
Okay.
The contract does have language to it that speaks that the vendors are required to keep that insurance current, and I defer that language to the legal counsel.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Mrs. DeAgresta, this is sufficient. Did you take a look at this?
Yes, ma'am. Certificates of insurance are typically issued for 1 year, and the Risk Management Department monitors them, and when they get close to the expiration date, has a process to obtain the updated or renewed certificate for the continuation of the contract.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm looking, the issue date was 8/8/2018, is that correct? At the top right?
Yeah, the date in the top right-hand corner, ma'am, is just literally the date that they printed it off.
They printed it.
The policy term would be the effective dates, and the expiration dates that you find like in the body of the COI, they're towards the middle. You'll see that their general liability is from June 1st through June 1st of 2019.
Okay. I feel deja vu up here. Mr. Searcy was always on top of this. So, okay. Any further discussion on this item?
No.
No. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Okay, thank you. All right, so at this time, we had 2 items that we moved from discussion to action. And so the first one would have been discussion item A, school finance forum, which we are going to move to action item M. So I'm just going to handle this as if it was, I get a motion and then a second, and then we discuss, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I need a motion to, I need a motion.
I make a motion
Okay.
I make a motion to add the school finance, I forgot, I missed my place, I'm sorry.
Finance forum.
Finance forum to action, item M, M-N.
That's already been done. So what would the motion be?
What's the action?
What's the action?
The motion that the chairman is looking for is what you're asking the school board to do tonight on this
Oh.
particular item.
Okay. I make a motion for the board to hear the proposal or the possibility of a proposal for school board members to attend a school finance forum.
Okay.
Possibly, it might lead to a vote tonight, if not, at least a discussion.
Okay. So I need a
Was that-
second.
So I think that was a motion, second.
Mrs. Esplin, did you get that?
We'll get it, we'll get it.
So at this time, I'm going to open this up for discussion. And I do apologize, this is, in 2 years, this is the second time that we've done this, so it seems a little disorganized, but we do know what we're doing. So go ahead.
So a couple of weeks ago, all of the school board members, the week right after Thanksgiving, all of the school board members, we all attended a conference training in Tampa for school board training, so that we can learn better our position, our roles, our responsibilities, some of the things that are expected of us, some of the laws, and so on and so forth. The organization is the Florida School Board Association. We have not discussed whether we want to be members or not. That's something that I personally am not interested in. However, in part of, on the first day, new school board members attended a new school board training. In that school board training, there was a kind of like a flyer that was given out, if you all remember. It had step 1, and then step 2 was a finance forum that's coming up, and it's sort of school board finance 101. And that is coming up February 7th through the 8th, only 2 days. It's in Mission Inn at Howey in the Hills, Florida. I've never heard of that. But what I have here is a quick description. School finance is a complicated subject. As school board members, it is important to know the basics. Learn from an expert, Gretchen Saunders, CFO of Hillsborough County Schools, the 8th largest school district in the county. She adds life to what can be a very dull subject. But essentially, some of the, and I actually made a copy of what would be some information, if I can hand it out. Is that all right, or do I need?
No,
Okay.
we just need a copy
Yeah,
from
here,
Mrs.
just,
Esplin.
you can, there's plenty.
Okay.
And we can give it to Mrs. Esplin. So the content of the forum is designed to give school board members a better understanding of topics that include FEFP, which is Florida Education Finance Program, elements of comprising the FEFP formula, the base student allocation, the district cost differentials, required local effort, categorical programs, lottery funding, capital outlay funds, and truth in millage. The cost for the training is, and because we are not members, I'm only going to give the non-member cost right now. The cost for non-members is $750. That would be the registration for the conference, and the hotel room rate is $140. And again, we're talking, the 7th, and then check out on the 8th. I'm interested. I don't know if you all here, this is what the discussion is about, since we cannot talk outside of sunshine. So I'm interested. I want to learn about school finance, obviously. I want to be able to understand how to articulate what needs to be articulated, what's being given to us, what is being explained. I want to be able to process that. I want to be able to really get a grasp on it. I don't know if any of you are interested in that as well. Being a new school board member, I am really eager to soak in as much training as possible, especially from those who have been seasoned school board members. So the concern here is that we do not have money in the school board budget, which I understand. We only have allotted, because of the prior board, from what I understand, and what was already approved in our current budget, a total of $3,500 for travel. But $1,000 of that is not to be considered, because that $1,000 is for our legislative liaison, and then what's left over is $2,500, which I believe we went over this last training. Because again, the prior school board was, it's my understanding, was not entirely interested in going to trainings the way that we all just hopped right on board for this one. So the reason why I'm bringing this up for discussion is to kind of get a feel as to what you all think about it. Are you interested? Are you not? And if so, we would need to give Dr. Rendell a directive to amend our budget, at least for this training, if you're interested, because Mrs. Esplin would need to begin registering us for that. So,
Okay.
So we're looking at 5,000 plus for us to go, if all of us go. And I'm not quite sure where we would get that money. That's my concern, is we know our budget's tight. I definitely, I've taken lots of education finance courses to get my ed leadership, but I know that now looking at it as a school board member is that's not totally different, but there are some differences. So I know I could learn from that. Not quite sure, I heard it's a good training, but I'm not quite sure if that's if we could do it a different route, maybe learn what we need to learn, but maybe not cost that much, because I'm a little concerned about that.
There's a few pieces of this, and I want to bring some of the financial conversation about it. So we are one of, I believe, 2 districts in the entire state who are not represented at FSBA. And so the downside of that is not only some of the information we lose, but one of the things that was invaluable for me, at least, at being at FSBA that week, was the people I met and the connections I made. Because what that enables me to do is learn about best practices elsewhere in a way that when we are isolated, well, we can't talk to each other, but when we're isolated here and we don't have access to what's happening in other districts and other school board members and other superintendents, it really limits our ability to learn what other boards are doing effectively. And so I spent a lot of time at that conference talking with people from other boards, both new members and experienced members. That was, I have to say, a highlight. Not only, in being at that conference, not only was there new school board member training and all of the sessions we went to and all of the people I got to talk to who have very different experiences than I do. So unlike Mrs. Berenberg, but it's a financial issue, I actually am interested in being a member of I'm sorry, Ms. Rosario, you said it. I am interested in being a member of FSBA, and I'm not sure, so one of the conversations that we need to have with Dr. Rendell is if we were interested in either collective membership as a board, individual membership because you can be members as individual board members of FSBA, and then the difference that it is in some of the specific events. For example, at this one, which I am interested in if we have money to go to. The difference in the member rate and the non-member rate is typically about $300 to $400. FSBA also offers something called Master Board training, which is training that they offer to school boards where they come to you and actually train you in best practices as a school board to work really effectively together, to build those types of collaborations that we don't get to spend a lot of time doing because we can't talk to each other outside of meetings like these. And it teaches us how to work within those parameters. The price of that, if we are non-members, is $9,000. The price of that, if we are members, is $4,500. So being a member also has implications for what other things we may or may not want to do. So it's part of a bigger conversation, not just about this upcoming school finance forum, but moving forward. And again, because we can't have this conversation outside of rooms like this, our intentions moving forward about our interest in professional development to be the most effective board we can be. And rightly so, I think, Mrs. Berenberg, you said, but I may be getting it wrong again. The previous board was less interested in professional development than I think this board, at least so far, appears to be, as evidenced by we all chose to go to FSBA over Thanksgiving week, or the week prior to Thanksgiving. So I want to have that as a larger conversation, not simply about the finance forum, but looking at our overall interest in professional development in terms of the substance of what we get, but also the networking and the relationships that we're able to build to rely on other school board members outside of this district who have just an unbelievable wealth of experience and access to resources that we don't necessarily otherwise get to connect with.
Okay.
So.
I'm gonna, then you can maybe piggyback or add to. I have two comments. My first, well, actually, comments, questions. My first question would be, I'm looking at finances. So if every board member wanted to go, and if we're all on an equal playing field here, that would be $5,000. I do not know what program we're gonna take that out of or where that would come from. So that's a problem. I find that to be a big problem. But with that being said, if it's something that we're all interested in, is perhaps reach out and see how much this Mrs. Gretchen Souders from Hillsborough County, how much she would charge to have her come over and actually do a workshop with just us as a board. And that might be a more economical way to approach it. And so it's not something that I'm always interested in learning, but I just have to figure out how are we going to pay for it and how can we get the, maybe get it for less. I sat through the budget process, and right now I'm thinking we cut from different departments, their travel, their training. So to me, I'm thinking if we had $5,000, I'm thinking of the departments that I would rather give it to versus me getting it. But I do find professional development very important, but how do we get around not having a budget this year for this? It's just my concern. So.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, that perhaps this is something we might want to look at for next year. I know finance has been really important lately, especially for us. But I know being a member, we're one of only 2 districts that are not members. However, it's $15,000 to be a member as a board. And, that seems like a lot of money, and in respect for looking at our total budget, it's really not. However, when we're looking at making cuts, when we're looking at trying to do other things for next year, I really think that we should, be respectful of that and just sit back and say, let's learn all we can, maybe another way, but let's try to save the money this year.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I agree. $15,000 is a lot of money. Plus, you still have to pay for registration. You get a discount, but you still have to pay for registration of certain, trainings, and you still have to pay for your hotel. I looked at all.
Order at 7:47. Our power and our mics are back up. So I believe it was it Mrs. Rosario, would you like to continue?
Yes. So I forgot where I left off, but I searched all of their training sessions for the year. Personally, the only 2 that I would be interested in are is this finance one coming up, and then there's one in April that is the School Board Academy Part 2, the new School Board Academy Part 2. So apparently what we went to was Academy Part 1, and there's a follow-up. That one is only 2 days. If I had to personally choose between the finance one and Part 2, I would definitely go with the finance. Other than that, I'm really not interested. I spoke with, in membership rather, I spoke with someone by the name of Tim Weischauer. He is a school board member on Osceola County School District. He is also the president-elect for FSBA. And I asked him directly what his position is personally and the organization's position on, their legislative platform, what their position is on school choice. Personally, he said he is absolutely in favor of school choice and charter schools. But as an organization, the organization is not in support of charter schools. They are not in support of, they are in support of school choice, but not in the traditional way, and they have a different view on it. But essentially, when they send their people, whomever it is, to lobby, it certainly would not be something that, you know, I'm in favor of. So that's why personally I'm not interested in paying, you know, $15,000 towards an organization that I don't believe in. And we, as a school district, do not believe in that part, in what they believe. We do not have common beliefs, you know, in that area. So I don't see spending $15,000 for 2 conferences, essentially. The one that we went to, and maybe the financial one. The other option, I mean, that's just personally. The other option is bringing someone here, which might be something for us to think about. I don't know if they would do it because we're not members. I don't know if they would extend that courtesy to us. Maybe as a consultant, I don't know. I don't know what the possibility is. The second thing that I was thinking of is sending 1 or 2 of us, and then we can come back with the information to train, you know, or to share like some other entities do. You send 1 person, they come back with the information, you retrain or you reshare that information that you learned with your colleagues.
Okay, thank you. Is my mic on? Can you hear me? Okay. My question is, I know, I'm going to put you on the spot, so I'm sorry. The Superintendent's Association offers different benefits. Would that be something that they could do, is offer a finance person to come in? Because we did have Mr. Weiss who came in.
Correct. Our membership, or my membership in FADS, does provide us with some days of training or days of consultant support. And I could reach out to FADS to see if they could provide that training.
Okay. Because I don't think in the past that's something that we've ever taken, in my 2 years, it's not really something we've taken advantage of, except when we had Mr.
Correct. Yep.
Come
We did not
in.
ask for assistance the first couple of years.
In answer to your question, yes, they do provide training for non-members. They are willing to do it. It's just that the rate is different.
Okay.
I appreciate your concerns about where the money goes and how the money gets spent and what's in our budget and what's not. And I think that's also has to do with understanding also where some current money is and how things are allocated and can be reallocated. And I don't know enough yet to know where some of that is. I'm not sure that I would want to have a superintendent's organization training on finance for the board, because I think it's different perspectives, but I don't know that yet. In regard to school choice, I don't want to speak for FSBA, but and while there are certain aspects of school choice that I think they may oppose, and you alluded to, I'm not sure it's consistent that they are against school choice or against options or against all charters. I think that's a really tricky issue, and we tend to collapse it a lot. So I want to be careful about how we speak about that. Yeah, I think that's it for the
Okay.
moment.
Can I, just to make sure I understand this right, now with Mr. Weiss, I'm not saying his name right, am I? Is it Mr. Weiss?
Yes, call me
Okay.
Weiss.
So he was the CFO of St. Johns County?
Correct.
So we would have an actual CFO if, I mean, and that's just for this one time. If the finance understanding and training is something that you guys are interested in, that's something that we could try to work on to get someone here to do that. If that's just one, that's really what's on what we're asking tonight. The action item is about this training.
Madam Chair, The trainer, the person leading the training that the FSBA is offering is a CFO in Hillsborough County. So the Superintendent's Association could contact Hillsborough to see if that person would come. You know, I'm not guaranteeing that, but the same person that could be delivering the training at Howie in the Hills could be who could deliver the training here. I don't, you know, it's possible.
And if that person were not available, then would you be able to find someone else? Someone
The Superintendent's
qualified?
Association would be able to find somebody.
Okay.
Is that something we're interested in looking into?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely interested in the training for sure. So at this point, it doesn't matter where it comes from. It's great, you know, what Dr. Schiff mentioned. It's absolutely fantastic to network and to, you know, really connect with live people face to face, because it is invaluable. You do get to share way more than you would by having someone come in. Because you learn other perspectives, you know. But at the same time, I understand, you know, we are new. We did not have any feed into the budget that was passed for this year. Certainly, if we can revisit that in the future for next year's budget, if that's the case. But if we could almost guarantee that we will get this training, you know, finance training, I'm on board with anything,
Well,
as long as it's appropriate.
I think the first step is 8:01, and I am calling this meeting back to order because the power switched our mics off. So we were in discussion about, we are in discussion, ladies.
Sorry.
There is a request that, for financing approval to go to this financing seminar. At this time, it seems like what I'm hearing direction is, where's the money gonna come from? And then second, let's look into if that's an option to go with the Superintendent's Association, to see if we can tap into utilizing Dr. Rundell's membership to bring in a CFO from
somewhere.
Hillsborough.
Or another county that could do some similar training to, for all of us.
So can she amend her motion then? We haven't made an motion yet, but she put it on the action, right? So we have to make a motion?
There is a motion pending.
Oh, there is, okay.
Can I add another comment? Because I think the obvious question, too, is why would we not use our own CFO? So I think we also want to consider whether or not we think we have the expertise in-house, and if we would want to use that, and whether we get the same, you know, whether the insularity of that is limiting in some way that we'd want to bring somebody else in, or whether we think that as a cost-saving measure, we do it in-house. Just a
Dr. Rendell, what are your thoughts on that?
I think you guys were all set to go to the training that was being delivered by another CFO. If you can get that training here, paid for by the Superintendent's Association, I don't know why you wouldn't take advantage of that.
Okay.
That CFO may know a few tricks in the bag or tools in the toolkit that our CFO does not know, may not.
But we can always ask him for any.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, you bring up a good point, but I feel like with the lapse of the time that's went by, that he will need that time to get caught back up, and I don't want to put this on him, but he can definitely be a part of that training session. Definitely, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would like him in it, actually.
Do we actually need a motion, or do we just suspend, or do, Mrs. DeGresta, do we have to vote on this?
There is a pending motion, so something needs to be done with that pending motion. Either it needs to be voted on or withdrawn. You can amend it, you can But you do need to do something with the pending motion.
I make a motion to amend the motion. I make a motion now to direct Dr. Rendell to reach out to the CFO of Hillsborough and/or FADS to schedule school finance training for all of us in-house.
Okay. Mrs. Esplin, did you get that? All right, I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Dr. Schiff seconded
Oh,
the original
okay.
motion. Does Dr. Schiff agree with the amendment?
Sure. Yes, I'll second.
Okay, all right. Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0. Can I just, I want to make a comment. This is something that we could have directed without having to take action. We could have asked for that.
I didn't
Yeah,
know that we
okay,
were going
right,
to,
okay.
we may have
Uh-huh.
decided to vote yes.
Okay.
You know, we're all going to go and Dr. Rendell, you know,
Right.
amend the budget and transfer
Okay.
$5,000 to allow us to go, you know.
All righty. So now we are moving on to former discussion item B, which is now moved to action item N, the organizational chart. And Mrs. Rosario, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to amend our district organizational chart. I'd like to discuss it. I'd like to explain why I'd like to amend it. And then at that point, if you all agree, we can take a vote on it.
So I have a motion.
That was the motion.
Okay, I need a second. By seconding, doesn't mean that you have to vote for it, just means it opens it up for discussion.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. So I have another, some more copies here. Mrs. Esplin added an organizational chart, our organizational chart as a backup. But I made copies. Oh, you know what? Let me get another one of those, please. Oh, no, I don't need it. I made copies of our district organization policy 1001, just as another item. An email that came in from the chairperson of the Equity Committee, and a copy of, I used Osceola County's organizational chart and Orange County's organizational chart, just as a sample, along with Brevard County's organizational chart. And there was no rhyme or reason to those particular counties. Those are the only ones that were available for me to find easily, as I put in a search for it in a PDF, and then I just printed them out. And so our district organizational chart was brought to my attention by an email that came in from the chairperson of the Equity Committee on November 14th. I believe you were all CC'd on that email. And in this email, the chairperson writes, quote, "We need a neutral staff person to communicate with in order to set up the meeting dates, the meeting times, place, agenda. Sunshine law prohibits direct communication. Also, the persons appointed should not have to go through Dr. Rendell to gather documents, send documents, write up agendas, contact committee members, schedule meetings." And this is the reason why I'm bringing this here to your attention. This next line, it says, "The committee is at the same level as the school board on the organizational chart. It does not require communication with, nor is it controlled by Dr. Rendell. The committee only reports to the board and judge periodically. And of course, there is more in that email. So when I searched for our organizational chart on our website, it didn't show up. I even did a search in the little search key for a word search or topic search. Nothing came up. Eventually, I asked Dr. Rendell where the chart is because I couldn't find it anywhere. He directed me to his specific web page, and there it was. So when I looked at it, I noticed what the chairperson was referring to. So indeed, the appearance of the level at which the board-appointed committees appear on our organizational chart, it gives the impression that they are on the same level as school board members. I'm sure you all have the attachment so you can see that. Board-appointed committees are not elected officials and are not at the same level in terms of the district's managing organization. So Dr. Rendell is still the chief executive officer of our school district. Whether we agree or disagree with any of the policies or the practices, that's not the concern. He's still our CEO. And as such, I don't believe that anyone should overstep his authority, especially in our absence. As the leader in control of the day-to-day operations of this district, it is Dr. Rendell who should ensure our directives and/or appointments, the appointments, especially the ones that we are instructing him to, and to make sure that they are handled accordingly. In our absence, Dr. Rendell should make sure that these committees get whatever they need for appropriate operations. Thus, removing him from the equation does no one any good. We are a team. We all should work together, not against each other. Nor should we try to overpower or set one group against the other. In this particular situation, we should consider ourselves an entire body, an educational body where the hand cannot tell the foot that you don't belong, and vice versa. So the whole body needs to work together in order to function appropriately. My colleagues, my coworkers, my fellow board's women, I believe that moving forward, it's our responsibility to clarify the roles of all of the parties involved. I believe that we can avoid misunderstandings and misrepresentations simply by communication. I have searched the policy that I handed out to you all. I've read it in detail. Our district organizational chart really should flow. It's a quote in that policy. It flows from the superintendent through the administrative staff to the operational personnel. There is no mention of board-appointed committees in our policy. I have also searched various other school district organizational charts, and none of them include board-appointed committees on their charts either. And that's why I gave you the sample so you can see it. After seeking your thoughts for discussion on this matter, I would like to remove board-appointed committees from this organizational chart. It doesn't mean that they don't exist, because clearly they do. It's just a matter of deciding whether it's necessary for us to have them written on our organizational chart for management. Since committees are not a part of the management of the organization, it's in this case, where they are located on the chart, has caused some confusion, and I would just rather avoid confusion. So if you all want to keep it on the chart, that's fine too. I would then ask that we move it below the school board or in some other area. But otherwise, if it's Once this is done, I would like to see this chart posted on, and then as a follow-up, I would also ask Dr. Rendell, if we move forward with whatever we're moving forward with here, to please have this available on our human resources page or our homepage or somewhere where it's accessible for everyone in the community to be able to access it, because that was another issue. People in the community couldn't find it. In summary, and here is, I suppose, my motion. I make a motion to remove board-appointed committees from our organizational chart.
Can I, before I open it up to discussion with board members, can I ask, historically, Mrs. DeAgresta, why, or Dr. Rendell, why have we put that there? And is that, is there any history? Who would like to? Go ahead.
The organizational chart was structured that way previously, and we just basically filled in the boxes the way it had been structured previously. The way organizational charts work is you do start at the top of the page typically and work your way down. The lines are indicative of where the authority comes from or who reports to who. So even though the board-appointed committees is directly to the right of the box that has school board, the line comes from the school board. So theoretically, if anybody were to say, where does that committee get its authority or who does it report to, it reports back to the board. But I understand the leveling on the page, I get that. But this was kind of how it was before, and I think it just said audit committee before, or land use and acquisition committee, and now since we have more than one board appointing committee, we just put board appointing committees.
So, I have some questions, but go ahead.
Are we in discussion?
We are in discussion.
Okay. So
R2?
that's the way I read it, by having it go to the right of the board, is that they answer to the board. And we're not talking about just one committee, we're talking about several committees. And I think that's the way it should be, because they should answer directly to the board, because they shouldn't answer to the superintendent, they shouldn't answer to anybody else, they should answer to the board.
I agree. And I think the confusion here, as you pointed out, Dr. Rendell, is the way the lines go. It's the lines of authority, but the line is reporting to the school board, and the request from the chair of the equity committee was to be able to get information, not necessarily having to go through the superintendent or through this structure, but to be responsible directly to the school board. And if that requires the school board requesting information or a request for information coming through the school board, through a school board member, or I don't know whether that could come through the school board executive assistant. I don't think we've discussed that yet. But I don't think the issue, in particular, because A, this issue is court-ordered, so it's not only in response to what we're interested in, it's actually what the court is requiring us to do, A. Two, because this particular issue is so significant, is such an issue for the district, reflects on something that's been going on for decades now. I'm reluctant in this particular issue to move that or to change that in any way, whether intentional or unintentional, that appears in any way to discount or minimize the importance of this issue. So at this point, I would not be in favor of doing that. I think the issue is more understanding what the organizational chart is meant to imply and getting clarification around that more than it is to say, we've actually got it wrong. Because I think as you guys pointed out, Mrs. Zork and Dr. Rendell, it's a misunderstanding about the way the lines go, not the way that has been misinterpreted as the authority. And I think we just need to clarify that. Because I think this may not be the last time we have a board-appointed committee. And I want to be sensitive to that.
If you see just to the left is the school board attorney. So those are the two that report directly to the board. The next person underneath directly to the board is the superintendent, and then of course everybody below that is reporting to him. So I think, I don't know, I kind of read it as is clear, but if you'd like to see the lines go differently, so it looks like that for other people?
So,
If that's the concern,
that-
is it for other people, then I can see where you'd want the organizational chart to be a little clearer.
because it does appear, based on the way that the lines are, and I know it seems frivolous, but based on the email that we received, we need to clarify this. So, would we have to take any action just to move that box down? Because we're not changing the organizational chart.
No, we're not.
I guess that's for Mrs. Diagresta.
It doesn't sound like you're actually making a substantive change. You're basically changing the graphics.
How? Do you want to change the graphics?
Okay, the way that it should read is the school board with, because these two are actually, report to us. So it should go like that, with the superintendent here. So it's just a matter of keeping,
Like this one.
keeping,
Look at the others.
keeping the same structure of the organizational chart, but just changing the lines of, because it does show that the board attorney, school board, and board-appointed committees were equal. And it's not that we're better than anyone else, but we do have a concern with an individual thinking that it means or it implies that the committees are equal to the board and they don't have to report to the superintendent or not report to the superintendent, but if he has any questions or anything, they don't feel like that they should have to answer any questions.
May I? I just wanted to go on the record, this has absolutely nothing to do with the importance of the equity committee. I just want that to go on the record. This has nothing to do with that. The only reason why I mention that is because that's how it was brought to my attention. That's when I realized I understand what she was referring to because I didn't understand what she was referring to. So I found it, and that's all. This has nothing to do with the content, the importance, nothing. Removing it from the chart does not say that that committee is not important. It doesn't say anything about the legal issues, the judge court order. It doesn't say anything to that. It only says, like other districts do, other districts do not have it on their organizational chart, because it's a committee that's just been assigned to us, like all the other committees that we have. That's all.
So my preference is to leave it, but if we could just.
Bring it down.
Bring it down, but leave.
Like Brevard counties? Are you looking at Brevard's?
Yes. Because I don't want to remove the committees.
Right.
Well, what
But
you
I
wind
do
up
think
doing
it's
then is you'll just put a line here instead of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
You can do that.
I guess we have to take action on this now even, okay.
So
Or if you'd like to see it, the superintendent can bring it back
Okay.
to you.
Do I need to
Drawn up.
amend my motion? Because my original motion was to remove it. Can I amend it?
Mrs. Rosario, you did not get a second for that motion.
Oh, good, okay. So I make a motion to change our organizational chart to reflect our committees, let me get the right chart, to reflect our board-appointed committees under school board on our chart, as reflected or similar to Brevard County. Right?
Yes. Do I have a second?
Can I discuss again?
Well, if she seconds, I want to amend.
Yeah.
So how do we do that?
Well, I think you can make a motion, since she doesn't have a second, and then maybe, right?
Are you calling the motion dead for lack of a second, and someone else is going to make a motion? I'm not, I don't want to tell you what to do, I just want to, we also have an original motion by Mrs. Rosario to get this topic on the table, which was seconded by Mrs. Berenborg. So we have an original motion that's not had a vote yet. We had another motion that did not get a second, and now we have a third motion that
Might have a third one.
Okay, so the first motion was to discuss it. So we've been discussing it.
there's been no vote.
A vote to
I'm trying
discuss.
to get
So
the
can
motions out of
someone,
the way.
can someone
Can I
second the
amend the
motion to
first motion?
discuss? Because we just
Motion to
discussed it.
discuss? Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, you may.
Okay, so I want to amend the first motion. Wait, the first motion was just to discuss.
Yes. And see if there was interest in taking action.
I don't know if this is going to go right, so you're going to have to tell me. I'd like to amend that motion to request that we get a draft of a revised organizational chart to come for a vote in a subsequent meeting.
Is there a second for the amendment?
Yes, I second that one.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? No. 4-0. So we got that? Okay, thank you. All right, I think,
That was good.
I know you have something that you want to bring up, but
Yes,
let me,
for discussion.
let me bring this up real quick. I do have here on my discussion item, board discussion sessions. Previously in the past, or actually, no, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So that ends our action agenda. So at this time, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. At this time, it's the superintendent's report. So Dr. Rendell?
No, you had a discussion item.
Well,
Oh, got it, you're right,
yes,
you're right,
so because that discussion item was actually an action item. So the superintendent's report, at this time, I'd like to recognize Dr. Rendell for his superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll actually be very brief. We are nearing the end of first semester. We are almost halfway through the school year. This is December 12th. Next week is the final week of classes before winter break or Christmas vacation. 4 of those 5 days will be early release days to accommodate exams at the secondary schools. So we only have 7 days of school, 8 days of school before winter vacation. And I just want to thank everybody for all their hard work so far. We've had a great first half of the year. We've been moving along very well. And I want to thank everybody for their hard work and their effort. And I hope everyone has a wonderful, relaxing, enjoyable holiday season. That's it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So at this time, the way that the agenda is set up, we're going into discussion. So I did have a discussion item that I wanted to talk about, and that is board discussion sessions. Previously, actually before I got on the board, there were on the second Tuesday, typically there was the superintendent's workshop that was during the day. And then on the fourth Tuesday, there was actually, instead of the workshop, it was set up as the board discussion session. So at that time, like tonight, board members would submit ahead of time the items that they wish to discuss and with their backup. And then they would have the discussion session during the day when staff's here and the superintendent and the attorney is here. And it can be audioed, but preferably videoed so that it's very transparent of what we're talking about. And the reason that, that there's a lot of things that we want to talk about, but because of sunshine, we can't talk about it. And after being we're going into 12 hours today right now of being in meetings and taking in information, really, the 11th hour that we've been here, it's not really a good, we're just not mentally there to make these discussions the way that they need to be. So what I would like, and it's based on consensus, is to go back to the way it used to be and have I guess, the first week would be the discussion sessions, is that correct?
We could absolutely do that.
So I had talked to Dr. Mundell about this. So the first Tuesday would be the board member discussion sessions, and then the fourth Tuesday would be the superintendent's workshop. So I remember hearing when we were over in FSBA, they had talked, you guys had went to like the culture and climate and what's the word I'm trying to, the workshop that strategic plan that everyone was excited about listening to that training. This is an item that maybe the superintendent wouldn't have on during one of his workshops, but this is an item that we could put during our discussion, and then we could discuss it as much as we want to. We could have staff prepared to come in and present certain areas that we want. So I'm wanting to get consensus tonight for us to at least try it. And if it doesn't work out with your schedule, you don't have to be here. It can be televised. Or if it's something after 3 months and we feel like we've discussed everything we could possibly discuss, and we just don't need this anymore, it's something that we can stop doing. And it's not going to take away from the night discussions that we have on the board meetings, because there's always going to be the emergency items that come up during the week. So it's not to not have that, but it will minimize, and it will be a deeper, in-depth conversation that we can get into during the discussion session. So I just want your thoughts on that.
I think it's a great idea. There's so much that I want to discuss with you all. And to wait until the next board meeting, at this point, our next board meeting would be January, I think, 22nd.
Is it?
15th.
15th, January 15th. That is a long time to discuss things and just have regular discussion, just like we're having now. So I'm on board. Did you say, just for clarification, the fourth Tuesday would be our discussion day and the first Tuesday would be the workshop?
It would
Is
be
that what I heard?
rotated.
Second.
Rotated.
Mm-hmm.
So the fourth Tuesday would be the workshop, and then the first Tuesday.
Second Tuesday would be, is that
She
correct?
meant she said the first Tuesday we meet, but it's
Yes.
actually the second Tuesday of
Sorry.
the month, in most months.
Yes.
I'm sorry, so the second Tuesday of the month would be the workshop?
No, would be the board discussion.
Okay.
Second Tuesday would be our board discussion, fourth Tuesday would be the superintendent's
Fourth,
workshop.
okay.
And I just want to remind you that no action is ever taken during board discussion.
Right.
It's not something that we could pull. We have to be in a business meeting to take action. So if you weren't able to make it, it's not that you're going to miss out on voting on something, because we do not vote during these discussion sessions. Tonight was very unusual, but we're at a board meeting and we were able to take action.
And if for some reason one of us could not make it on that discussion day, we still had an opportunity to discuss. We would still have an opportunity to discuss on the dais. So
If that was to
Still-
make it to an action item, definitely. But preferably it will be videoed, so it's something that you could go and listen to and catch up on what the discussion was.
So for clarity for time,
Uh-huh.
because,
Mhm.
that does affect me. The second Tuesday, then, the discussion would be at what time?
We would hold it at the same time that we typically hold our superintendent workshops, which would be 1.
Okay.
And that's, this is, we're talking about this, so we could set it to what we need to. So preferably, it really just depends how many items that we have on that. So what is, currently it's 1 to 4?
Correct.
Is that what it
Yes,
is?
ma'am.
1 to 4, but if it's something that we want to move like 2 to 5, I mean, we could be, 2 to 5, and then we have that hour break.
But if we
Would
run
that-
over for any reason, like tonight, we don't get dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So and going on 12 hours, I would like to allow us the opportunity to run
Okay.
over and still actually
Okay.
do dinner.
And this is something we can always amend the time. We could try it 1 to 4, and if we feel like 2 to 4 is better, we could always amend it later, the time.
And then the workshop and meeting on the 4th would be 1 o'clock also. Okay.
Preferably to keep it at the same time, because I know it becomes very confusing with all the district meetings that we have to go to, because we did, a couple of times we had a meeting at 12, and it was, we just get used to certain times, so.
Yeah, the only concern is, of course, I have students during the day, so getting away from the students is my only concern.
Right.
Trying to be here, that's important as well.
Right.
So I just want to be fair in that. And will we get those discussion items ahead of time so I can see?
Absolutely. So that is my intentions, is to, by Tuesday, just like when Mrs. Esplin posts our agenda for that day, we need to go ahead and post our discussion items that we want to discuss. And we can make it an agreement that if it's not on that we can't bring it up during the discussion session. It has to be, in case someone looks at it and says, this isn't really something that I want to come and participate in. I don't think it's fair for us to add something that day. So that is something that we could do.
Well, I'll do my best to make as many as I can.
So,
Is this something we have to vote on, or is this something we can just say, yeah, we think that's a good idea?
well, I believe, I checked into this, and as your chairman, I want to make sure that I'm fair to everyone, and I've asked everyone. It's something that I could do without coming to the board, but I wanted to first come to you and make sure that it was, is that correct? Yes, I wanted to make sure that it was something that you guys thought was beneficial and the time was good for you.
Well, the time's not good for me, but that's fine. I will make my best effort.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is the first, do we want to try to have our first one in February?
Yes, ma'am. We've already scheduled presentations for the 2 Tuesday afternoons in January. So the first open Tuesday afternoon would be the second Tuesday in February, which is our first meeting in February. And that can be listed as a board discussion session.
Okay.
And Mrs. Esplin will send us notifications of that like she would all the other stuff, right?
And so.
Sorry, I'm not talking up here again.
Yes. So, at this time, I believe we have started getting some requests in on items for discussion. And so, we can put those items on our first discussion. I don't know what's come in, and then we'll post that for the second Tuesday of February, 1 to 5, 4, 1 to 4.
Just to understand the process, if we have an item we would want to discuss, would we send that to you or Mrs. Esplin to send to you?
Mrs. Esplin will take it.
We would send it to her, and then she'll communicate with you.
Is it okay for the?
That's correct.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, provide them all to Mrs.
So,
Esplin to be put on the agenda.
And I know with Sunshine, what if we get 8 items in and I know that we're not gonna be able to cover all those? How would I communicate to the other board members of trying to narrow down what we had time to talk about.
The last time the school board held these types of sessions, everyone put all of their agenda items on, and if you ran out of time, what the chairman would do the last time around is they would just go around robin, everybody got a topic, and then they would go around again if there was time, and everybody got a topic, and then you would go until you exhausted your time, and then whatever topics were left were just placed on the next agenda.
Okay.
So
All right.
should we prioritize our topics then?
Well, we can discuss that. We can discuss what's top priority to talk about. So anyways, that is what I wanted to bring to you. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I had the I had a Saturday in mind that I thought the first discussion might be good on a Saturday, just to have that first Saturday. And for some reason, I had a Saturday in January, I don't remember which one, in mind, and I can't even tell you how or where, but for some reason, I feel like a Saturday would have been a good start, just to get us up and going, and then February, because there's so much to discuss, and then February, possibly, going into the Tuesdays.
And that was something I exhausted, the possibility. So it was something that I tried to look at, but after I looked at the fact that we need to televise, Mrs. DiAgresta, she is here on Mondays and Tuesdays, so that we don't have any extra out of pocket, and I don't know. But, I was looking at the cost to do this. And then in the middle of January, on January 12th, that Saturday, is actually our Teacher and Employee of the Year banquet. So there wasn't any, there wasn't any availability to do it in January.
So do these meetings have to be televised or audio taped? The discussions have to be at least audio taped, is that correct?
No, ma'am, that is a local procedure that the school board can establish or not establish. There's no legal requirement to either audio tape or videotape any public meeting.
Oh, so we don't have to?
No, ma'am.
Personally, I wouldn't have these discussion sessions without video, because it might be perceived that we're trying to just talk about things and make decisions that isn't upfront and transparent. So I just strongly, even though we can make that decision of going audio, I don't want it, as your chairman, I can't do that. I prefer to have it videoed. And they're gonna be here anyways, on the Tuesdays.
Okay.
All right, we good? Okay, so I think Mrs. Berenborg had a topic.
We'll get it by the end of the year.
I know,
All
I
right.
know.
So, having gone to 2 concerts in one weekend and listening to awesome performances of high school students at both Sebastian River and at Vero Beach High School, I was a little disheartened, not with the kids, not with the hardworking adults, but with the sound systems. I know that in October, I sat in that audience and I watched a young girl come up here and speak to the board about the sound system at Vero Beach High School. After the performance on Sunday that I attended, I went backstage and inquired, and she was there and brought up, oh, I was that girl, and I recognized her. So I did bring up my concerns to Dr. Rendell. I did tell him I was bringing this up as a discussion item. I would like us to consider moving on something like that in the near future, because they did bring up one concern that is eminent as far as the headsets go with the FCC or whatever. So I know that typically what happens, because I've been in this role, that a principal will bring their 5-year plan or their next year items, a wish list, we called it, and we would prioritize what we would like for our school as far as needs for our school. And I'm not sure if we can wait on that, or if not, But I do know there are concerns, and I understand it's also a concern for Sebastian River as well. Dr. Rendell, is that true?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I just want it noted, brought it up for discussion.
Okay. So I was here at that time, and so my question to Dr. Rendell in my next meeting a couple of months ago was, we have the PAC Center at Vero Beach High School and then Sebastian River High School that charge a fee for people to come in and groups and organizations to come in and use the facility, and they keep these fees. So my question was, how much of that fee are they putting in reserve to cover the future cost of the capital needs? And did we ever find out?
I don't know if Mr. Teskey has the exact percentage, but some of those funds are set aside for upgrades, equipment upgrades, and replacement of equipment at those sites. Vero Beach High School, the Performing Arts Center has used some of those funds to replace light bulbs or different things in the PAC. The sound system, and Mr. Teskey has researched this a little bit, so he can jump in and correct me if I make a mistake, but it's my understanding that the leadership at the high school, in conjunction with the organizations that use it, the school organizations, the drama club, the bands, and the chorus and orchestra, wanted to pursue a grant to try to get grant money to replace that sound system, and they did not get that grant. So it's my understanding that it is now in the mix of the capital plan. I'm not sure exactly where it is in the queue, but we can make sure that if it's something we can do sooner than later, we would do that. Mr. Teskey, anything to add?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, board members. Yes, so a principal can make two requests. They can make a request with the FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, or they can make a request on their wish list within the 5-year plan. So previous requests at Vero Beach High School were listed under FF&E, which is under purchasing. I have now directed staff to add both upgrades within the 5-year plan to at least start budgeting, looking at it, getting estimates, and talking about it so we can start tracking that. But each school can access their own internal funds of revenue that they generate for whatever upgrades, equipment, headset, sound systems that they would like. Currently, right now, the maintenance department, we are continuing with the lift repair at the Vero Beach High School PAC. The lift was damaged and broken, so we actually flew a vendor in from Canada because that's where it was made and built, and we had to work on that. So that's been very extensive. Sebastian River High School has concerns or issues with the pulley system, which is very detailed and complex. Lift repair, the lighting systems, when the jobs or projects exceed what our maintenance department can do, we then work with the performing arts directors to secure bids and bring those vendors in to assist them with that. So currently we have lift repair. I provided Dr. Rendell with an extensive list, a spreadsheet of what we're doing at both PACs. I can easily forward that to you, or he can, showing what we've worked on for the past 5 years at both of our PACs of what we've been doing. But we have added that to the 5-year plan, sound system replacements for both the PACs. We just have to budget for that. The board will approve the 5-year plan each year. The board has the right to make recommendations to move projects up or down, but step one is getting it on the 5-year plan in 22, 23. And budgeting for it now and starting to make those plans. So, yes.
That's my concern is, and I know how that process works as far as putting out a 5-year plan. My hearing is going, but it was really difficult to hear some of the stuff that was going on with the kids. And, that's my concern is that, these kids will be gone in 5 years. So if this is something that's going to happen in 5 years, I feel for the kids for the next couple of years that are going to be going through that. Having had a child myself that went through the theater program there, it was not there. Yeah. back then. But as far as the sound system, everything's great. But now, you know, the kids, I just don't want kids to suffer, that's all. And I know there are a lot of projects that we have to look at as far as funding goes and things that are very important and maybe prioritize, that might not be, but when we have a student that comes to the podium and speaks about something, and then, you know, I hear a concern, but I also know that sometimes a principal has got to prioritize stuff the way they want to prioritize it. And I just don't want to feel like we have to go out there and ask the community for money for something that we might be able to do, seeing that, you know, we might have the funds in that particular categorical.
And Ms. Berenborg, if I may just jump in one more time. So I commend the young lady, the student, for speaking publicly. I actually met her as well, too, when we did a walkthrough of the PAC in the green room in the back. She was a little confused. We replaced the sound system at Shark Stadium. We did not replace the sound system at the Sebastian PAC. So there was just a little confusion there, but of course, during citizen input, we're not going to correct anyone or interrupt them. But so there was the confusion of Sebastian got something replaced and Vero didn't. So neither PAC has had their sound system replaced.
Right. That was what I found out too, that both of them, and thank you for that, Dr. Rendell, because, you know, it was very obvious to me Vero Beach had that sound system issue. The Prism concert was a lot louder, so
But their mics did go out Saturday night.
They did. They went out. Very beginning, I couldn't hear the student that was on the stage. So that's a concern I have, is just, you know, when our kids are doing such dynamic things, we want to be able to hear it.
Do we know how much that's going to cost? Do we have a cost to replace it or fix it?
No, ma'am. The headset replacement is looking between $9,000 to $10,000 at Vero Beach High School. So that's what was placed on an FF&E request. But a full replacement, no. As Dr. Rendell mentioned, we were working with an orchestra foundation and trying to secure the grant. That was more along the lines of around $100,000 for the lighting system at Vero Beach High School. So we spent a good portion last year working on that grant. We were not successful. So we haven't researched a full replacement of sound systems yet, because it was not placed on a 5-year capital plan, but it is now.
Okay. I guess my second question, to follow up on my other comment about when the PAC Center takes in these fees for these different performances from different groups, where does that money go?
So it's a very good question. Last year, Dr. Rendell tasked myself and Mr. Morrison with doing just an analysis of Sebastian PAC and Vero Beach PAC, because there were some discrepancies within the facility use agreement. There's 3 levels that a principal can charge a vendor or an outside agency to use: a hard court, a gymnasium, a cafeteria, whatnot. 3 levels, level 1, 2, and 3. Within those levels, there's fees, custodial fees, cleanup fees, deposits. Principals can choose to waive certain fees with that, and when those funds are brought in, they are deposited into their internal accounts. I know, I think as of yesterday, Mr. O'Keefe produced a document of his internal funds of the Vero Beach High School PAC revenue. So that is basically a school-based decision. That money comes back to the school. If a church rents your cafeteria or your gymnasium, those funds come back to you. So we would have to request each school to produce whatever school it was and how they're using their funds and where they're being deposited. But I know they are being tracked and available.
Madam Chair, but the fee that we charge is based on covering the cost to operate the facility during that time. So the fees pay for the custodian, they pay for any sound system personnel or lighting system personnel that need to be there. They pay for paper goods in the restrooms, that kind of thing. So it's not all income as in profit. A lot of it's covering the cost of just operating the facility during that time. So, but we have looked into the situation regarding the sound system at Vero Beach High School, and we know that there's a similar situation at Sebastian River High School, and we will try to move those up as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
I do have, you've brought up this I do have a concern that we're not charging enough for this, because
The concern last year was that there didn't seem to be a uniformity in the fees that were being charged. Mr. Teskey and Mr. Morrison worked with the schools to get a set rate structure that we believe is appropriate.
But what I heard you say is it covers basically labor. It doesn't cover wear and tear on our seating, our carpet, our, our sound equipment. And so what happens is we're allowing different groups and organizations to come in and use the facility, but yet the entire district is having to pick up the cost, which is taken away from the classrooms, because we're not charging enough to replace these items. So my thoughts are is, let's tack on $100 or, depending what it is, another fee for the use of the equipment.
Can I say something? Okay, so what I'm asking for the sound system, the lift that you're talking about, the orchestra pit, that comes out of capital, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the money that they take in from these other things, what fund does that go into? When they're taking in money from an organization that rents it?
Right, it goes into their internal account,
Their internal.
but
okay.
they pay for the custodians and the paper goods and stuff from the internal account. So, but I do believe the rate structure includes some equipment replacement, percentage.
Okay, is that good?
Right, that's my point, is that it comes out of capital, which is, and we just got 70,000 back from capital. So my point is, that's a big expense that schools have to decide, okay, what do we have in capital? And, we always look at that as, okay, where's the money in your budget? And a lot of the money usually is sitting there. Is that correct? In capital?
It depends. It depends on how that building or department, uses their capital funds. So in some cases, there might be a higher percentage of leftover capital fund at the end of the year. It depends. Could be, needs at one school might be higher one year than another in desk replacements or, office furniture or something like that.
Just for an example, Sebastian River High School PAC, they wanted a specialized light bulb, so they used their funds, they purchased the special light bulbs, and then the maintenance department, we installed them for them. So both schools are looking at things that they can fund themselves and then how we can support them. So we talk about those purchases together when we meet with the PAC directors. And we do extensive meetings with them in the summer times to find out what they should fund and what we should fund.
Right, and I think just because it is a center that's used by our community, we pay for it with our tax dollars, we should maintain it, make it look nice, and make it run well. And yes, I'm all about classrooms and putting money there, obviously, but I also think that you need to look at this as a, if we're going to make money, bring in money, we need to make it look good too. We need to make it so that groups will want to rent it and things like that. I'm not going to want to rent something that the sound system's not there.
Right. Any other discussion? No? Okay. All right. All right, so, okay. So we are moving on now to school board member matters. So at this time, typically, I just want to mention that if we are appointed, which we are, to certain committees, that this is a time that you would give us a review of what you learned in the committee that you wanted to bring to us, or typically I see it as this is what this is intended for, but I'm gonna open it If we want to start down here, if you have anything that you would like to.
Sure. I've been assigned, because I wanted to the Zoning and Planning Committee for Fellsmere, and it's supposed to meet the first Wednesday of the month. However, I can't seem to get that information exactly where, when, and all that. I made several attempts to get a hold of somebody. I did finally today, and they were supposed to get back to me. So I checked. I don't know how to check my voicemail yet, but I didn't see a flashy message either, so I'm not quite sure if I have a voicemail. But so I do want to be able to report about that. However, I couldn't go to the meeting that didn't know. So the other meeting that I'm supposed to attend is for zoning and planning for the county, and I do plan on attending that. That is next Thursday. Okay. I did want to say that I finally got to get tickets to Prism, and tried before. It's sold out for a reason. It was awesome. And I'd just like to thank all the directors. You know, there's a whole long list, and seeing that, you know, I don't want to mention every single name, but I'd just like to say thank you to all the directors and all the volunteers. And the kids were amazing. Their talent was amazing. Just the way it was presented was amazing. So I was in awe, and I just like to say thank you for that. And I also attended the Winter Wonderland concert at Vero Beach, and totally different and very classical, very typical, you know, winter concert. I got in the mood for the holidays. It was wonderful. And I just like to say thank you to all the directors there, all the kids. They were great students. They were high school kids. And just, it was enjoyable to be able to go to both those events.
Thank you. Mrs. Rosario?
I also went to both of those presentations. Prism was incredible. I mean, it was just like you just could not stop moving in your seat. The drum line, I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. They even did Baby Shark. So of course, I was embarrassing my son. We were sitting in the same row, and Mrs. Zork and I were doing Baby Shark, you know, Mommy Shark, Daddy Shark, whatever they did, of course, because they're sharks. So, I mean, it was just incredible. Everything that they did, it was wonderful. We had a great time. Everyone I think they just outdid themselves. Now, mind you, this is my first time at one of their Prism shows. So I'm just assuming that they get better every year. And in a packed house, I can't imagine that we're probably going to need to get them to present in I don't know, what's the Palm Beach County Theater? Kravitz Center, there we go. Or televised. And of course, likewise, Vero Beach High School Winter Wonderland was just beautiful. And you're right, very different, but absolutely super, super classy, well put on, just incredible. It was a wonderful way to begin the holiday season, moving into the holiday season. Last week, I visited with, oh, by the way, I have not started my meetings yet. I don't believe that they were on the calendar yet. No, the timing, one of my meetings is once a year or as needed. So that certainly was not on my schedule. But I did visit Citrus Elementary last week. Mrs. Kimberly Garcia, the principal, and Mrs. Sue DiDomizio, did I pronounce that right?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. The assistant principal there were incredibly gracious. They gave me a tour. They are a Title I school, as so many of you already know. They have about 130 ESE students. I did not realize how large their ESE population is and how they have designed their ESE department there. One of our finalists for Teacher of the Year is one of their autistic teachers. So it really was an incredible tour. I'm glad that I went. While I was there, an incredible donation came in for their PBS, positive behavior supports. So some were new toys, stuffed animals, things like that. Some were slightly used. Bags and bags and bags came in from I don't know where. But of course, I helped bring all of the things in, and I thought it would be nice to announce that for anyone who is listening, who would like to donate to Citrus Elementary, if you have anything of that sort that they could use, because children are able to purchase these items. I'm not sure if it's every Friday or every week or every other week, but whenever it is that they're able to, it's just a wonderful opportunity for the kids. Now, all of these bags that came in took up their entire kind of little vestibule in their office. And I was guaranteed by Mrs. Garcia that they would all be gone by the end of the day. So it gives you an idea that, having ongoing donations, and I don't mean to not mention any other schools as I begin visiting schools and these sort of things come up, I'm certainly going to announce those as well. With that said, I'm going to kind of piggyback off one more time of what Mrs. Barenborg mentioned with regard to the sound system. If there are anyone out there who would like to consider a gracious donation to both of those schools in the areas of, audiovisual equipment, that would certainly be helpful. And both of those bands, I don't know if it's bands, Mrs. Barenborg, or if the entire orchestra, but both of them are heading off to big trips, big field trips coming up. Is that right?
Well, the Sebastian River Band is going to New York City for St. Patrick's Day parade, and the Vero Beach High School Band's going to London for the New Year's Eve Day parade.
That's what I didn't remember which one. So they are also looking for donations to help these children, make these trips. So by all means, you can seek out the band directors of I'm sorry that I didn't come with that information, but I'm sure we can get the information for anyone who's interested in donating. So it was just an incredible week, and I look forward to more in case we do not see each other, or in case I miss you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays to everyone.
Thank you. Dr. Sill?
I'll be brief. Prism was awesome. I'm from New York. I've been to a lot of shows in my life. It rocked. Total shout out to the kids and the adults. Unbelievable performance. Star Patrol was a blast. One of the most fun things I've gotten to do in this job. Happy holidays to all. See you in January.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Have you reached out in Fellsmere to Jason Nunemacher?
I have that's who I left a message with.
Okay. And if you need support with that.
I think I've got that.
And Sebastian canceled their meeting, so I didn't go to that.
Okay.
Tell them that.
All
Happy
right.
holidays.
So, boy, I'm not even going to go into anything. Just, it was fantastic. Kristen and Anitra did an amazing job putting together the Star Patrol. And last year was amazing. This year was even better. And so I know that was a lot of work, so I appreciate everything that you guys did. And I just want to say thank you to Mrs. Esplin. She has done an amazing job as a new chairman. She has really put a lot of time and effort into putting these agendas together. So I wanted to say a special thank you to you, even though tonight we had two new things that had never happened before, that basically, but we got through it. But anyways, I wanted to say Merry Christmas, and I hope that everyone has a safe, happy holidays coming up, because our next meeting is...
Tuesday, January 15th.
Oh. So Okay. So
I
I'm-
believe that's correct. Thank you.
January 15th, okay, January 15th, so yes, I was right. So, so anyways, that's all I have, and now, Dr. Rendell, do you have any closing?
Mrs. Rosario was correct. The Vero Beach High School Orchestra is also traveling. There are two different musical groups at Vero Beach High School. There's the band, and then the orchestra, which is strings and stringing the violins and everything. They're also traveling to New York to perform in the spring. So
When do they
lots of,
travel?
I'll get you the information.
Okay.
They can take me with them. I could be a chaperone.
That's all, Mrs. Work. Thank you.
All right. All right, at 9:09, I'd like to adjourn this meeting.